Without advertising, the film business would not achieve nearly the success that it does with movies that are released. Although some movies are able to depend upon word of mouth to get viewers, that is not the norm. An example of the dependency of film to advertising is the fact that back in 2004 it was estimated that the advertising budget for blockbuster films came to approximately 37% of its production cost. For every £3 spent on making a film, just over £1 was spent on advertising and promoting it. Traditionally, films were advertised and promoted through the use of movie theatre advertising, posters, banners and magazines. More recently, film promoters have had to move with the times, and now, as well as the traditional methods, new media such as pop-ups, web advertisements, social media pages and video sharing platforms such as YouTube have become the norm. Although technically not advertising, the use of new media to promote it is increasingly being used by low-budget and independent filmmakers who would not be able to afford more traditional mass-market media products, particularly to their niche audiences. One aspect of advertising that has always been common throughout the ages is the coordination of the different media used. By this I mean that the media has common themes and a synergy runs between them. I've tried to achieve this synergy by looking at three different aspects that both my main task and ancillary products could share. Firstly, the use of colour. The use of white is very prominent on my poster, and this is derived from the very bright colour grading I achieved on certain scenes in my film. Not only did I bleach bypass certain scenes in the film, I also carried this theme into some of the costume, which in turn is used to connote purity and heaven. The next aspect of the use of camera shots and framing. Through the use of selected imagery taken from my film to include in my auxiliary tasks, the image of the child on my poster is taken from the final scene of my film, which I specifically bleach bypassed. This in turn links with the poster and its use of colour, as it is also very washed out. I also include the imagery in my poster of trees, as they figure prominently in one particular scene. I also bleached this out to maintain a consistent theme. The use of many different images compiled together allows the viewer to gain an insight into the content of the film, rather than just using one single shot from the film. I did this because I want my poster to be an honest representation of what filmgoers can expect from my film, therefore improving the chance of attracting my target audience. The shots I chose from my magazine review page are directly taken from my film footage, so as to follow conventions of existing media products, such as Empire and Little White Lies magazine. This also gives the viewer a sneak peek into what my film might hold. I believe that this is a very effective way of working as a combination of my main product and one of my ancillary tasks to give a true and consistent representation of what the viewer can expect. The third aspect is the use of titles, a theme that has been used over the years by film promoters and has been consistently used through fonts and promotional activity. For example, the distinctive typeface on the Gone with the Wind title sequence was replicated on the original posters promoting it. Accordingly, I have carried on with this convention to maintain the continuity of my products. Next, I will comment on the different products that I have produced and make some judgments as to their effectiveness. Firstly, the film. I feel that one particular weakness that is identifiable is to do with the sound. More specifically, in certain scenes of my film, I feel that there is a sufficient lack of decent sound quality and some unwanted background noise is evident. Despite using the Rode shotgun mic, I believe that the input level on the recording device was not set high enough, as I had to turn up the gain on the clips in Final Cut, causing noticeable static noise and a lack of quality. This caused a difference in sound quality in the different scenes. Depth of field issues became evident in post-production. Because of the cameras used and the lighting levels necessary for the scene, the lack of depth of field was not picked up during the shooting of the hospital scenes. In order to correct this, the only option would have been to reshoot the scenes with a neutral density filter on the lens, heighten the ISO and lower the aperture. There were issues for and against the reshooting of the scene. On the one hand, I felt that I had some really good acting and reshooting might jeopardise that. On the other hand, depth of field would add impact to my scene and highlight the critical lines the actors were delivering. On balance, I decided not to reshoot the scenes, as I felt the overall quality of the film would not be marred by the lack of depth of field, particularly if I used quick continuity editing between characters. Coupled with this would also be the production pressures of reshooting a significant proportion of my film. One of these two weaknesses, I would say the one with the most impact would be the sound. For my intended audience, it is unlikely that many of them would be critically aware of technical issues of filmmaking, whereas a difference in sound quality will be much more noticeable. Particular strengths were evident during the production and post-production of my film. My film relied on a number of tracking shots, and I was very pleased with the way these turned out. It took a while to figure out the most efficient way of using a Steadicam, particularly as I was worried because I'd never used one before, and the motion shots were an essential part of my shot list. Because I was able to master the use of the Steadicam, it allowed me to keep the storyboard, meaning that my film could maintain a professional look. Post-production, I feel that the use of colour was a particular strength on my film. In the scenes that are meant to be particularly bleak and intense, such as the hospital scenes, and those that are meant to convey a place between life and death, it would have been very difficult to create the atmosphere and convey a sense of place to the audience by lighting alone. By careful use of colouring in the editing suite, I feel that I was able to achieve the right atmosphere that enabled the audience to better understand the underlying meanings of the scenes. When looking at the positives and negatives of my film, I had to balance out how significant these issues were on the needs of my audience. As my film has quite a lot of complex meaning, it would seem appropriate that a key issue has to be an understanding of the message in the film. The quality of sound and lack of depth of field do not really detract from the central message and meaning of the film. They are merely technical issues that, if they were improved, would not necessarily greatly improve the audience's experience. The use of tracking shots adds a sense of emphasis and continuity to the film, but again, are by no means significant contributor to its message. However, as a significant proportion of the film is diegetic, the use of colour is critical in giving the audience a sense of verisimilitude, and without the use of colour, it will be a lot more difficult to draw the audience into the film and enable them to understand the meaning, symbolism, and message. Whilst creating my poster, I had to be aware of the needs of my target audience, as well as creating a product that was visually pleasing. One of my main issues was about how much colour to use. In the film, some of the scenes were outdoors and naturally lit, whilst the indoor scenes tended to be more monochromatic. I wanted to create a poster that reflected different aspects of the film, and so had to decide on the right level of colour that would represent my film accurately. Both the outdoor and indoor scenes were significant, but a huge contrast in colour on the poster wouldn't have looked professional or stylised. So the decision was taken to make the outdoor aspects fit in with a monochromatic interior. This, I feel, works well, as there is continuity within the poster, and also the trees in the background look shrouded in mist, and it adds an ethereal, ghost-like quality that is reflected in the film. One of the main issues I faced when designing and creating my magazine article was over the choice of images to use. I followed generic conventions from both Little White Lies and Empire magazine, in that they both use shots from the featured films and both tend to have the images placed above the text. Perhaps my most contentious image is the first one, where the young actor is facing away from the camera. An alternative would have been to have had a full-face image of the boy. This could have been seen a good idea because firstly it fits in with the normal convention of letting main actor's identity be known. Secondly, by showing the actor's face and their expression, you can get a better sense of what the particular shot is about. In this case, however, I wanted to convey a sense of journey, following the boy. This ties in with the underlying context of the film as it follows. The boy follows his journey through life. If the young boy had been a well-known actor, then it could have possibly been more advantageous to have shown his face, as this might attract more people to read the article and consequently view the film. However, this was not the case, and the sense of mystery and journey is more important than the boy's identity. As the magazine has its own convention as regards layout, position of images, etc., the chosen images are critical in conveying a sense of continuity with the poster and the film. In hindsight, I feel that I perhaps should have considered the bleached out image to tie in with the other products, as this would have helped maintain the synergy. Having discussed the issues and changes I could make, on balance, I'm very pleased with the outcomes. There will be a few technical changes to the filming if I were to repeat the exercise, but these, I believe, would not change the nature or feel of my film, only enhance it slightly. Likewise, a change of image may add the magazine article a sense of continuity within the poster. I believe that all my products work well together and suitable for their intended audience. There is a synergy and continuity between the film and the poster that is lacking with a magazine article. This is because of the conventions of the magazine article, but perhaps with a more bleached out image, the synergy may have been maintained.